In this edition of the One Nation Weather Forecast for America, I'm going to be talking about your full July 2023 forecast. Thank you so much for joining me here. The video date, this video is being made in the end of June. We're talking about the full July forecast, and let's go ahead and hop in to the near-term weather patterns. So from July 1st through the 7th for us here. So this goes from your Saturday all the way through Friday of the first week of July for us. So you can see, look at this, looking like rainfall is going to be prominent in portions of the kind of north-central tier for us here, because the direct north zones for us here, those are going to be a little bit drier than average as it looks right now according to the CFS model. And then some of these zones under that high-pressure dome for us here in the Arklatex region are also going to be drier, as well as, of course, hotter than average, as you can see as that rainfall rides up and over the ridge. And then look at right along that Mississippi River for us here from portions of Missouri, Illinois, and Kentucky all the way down into portions of Louisiana. That's where the prominent heat is as we go through the next few days. I think that will begin to degrade a little bit, but we'll still see warmer than average temperatures continue across most of the east, not just over the course of the next week, but really through most of the month as cooler air tries to spill in into portions of the Rockies and the high plains. Now here's what's interesting. In the upper level pattern as we go towards July 5th, so this is Wednesday, the day after the 4th, you can see for you here, we've got this blue area, this upper level entity making its way through portions of southern Canada as it pushes on off towards the northeast, well into the North Atlantic, north of Canada for us there. We're going to see some of this energy swirl as well down into portions of the USA, bringing a cold front across the country. And as that makes its way across the country, it should bring a good amount of rain, really from portions of the Rockies all the way on over to the east coast through Appalachia for us there. You can see the model's in pretty good consensus that many spots will pick up at least 2 inches of rain out of this along the path. So through portions of Kansas, through Illinois, Indiana, all the way on up into the northeast. And it looks like some of these zones could pick up some solid totals of rain. But also on the southern flank of the system, we will have some heat and instability, which will result in some severe weather. This is my severe certainty graphic through the 3rd through the 7th. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has already issued for July 3rd, our Monday for us here, a level 2 severe weather threat, including the Dakotas and Minnesota. So we'll watch that zone. As we go into Tuesday, some storms could roll out of Montana, as well as curling back through Iowa. The European model keeps some of this activity in Iowa on Wednesday, as well as this kind of pushes on off into the Midwest. Then as we go into Thursday, more in towards the Mississippi River Valley and Ohio Valley, and then by Friday trying to push towards the East Coast. So definitely an active 4th of July week. So for those of you who are traveling, make sure you take this into consideration. Now your 6 to 10 day temperature outlook looks like this. July 5th through the 9th, 2023. You can see this big blue bullseye making its way into portions of the plains as that upper level entity brings that cool air in. Notice how this will not try to make its way much further past the Midwest for us here. A lot of warm air in the Gulf and the southern tier, as well as in portions of the Northeast, with also a heat dome building into portions of the Pacific Northwest. We've had a lot of heat during the month in that region. Look at the above average precipitation anticipated as we go the 5th through the 9th. This is great. We've got drought conditions in many portions of the plains. We need some of this rainfall, even though it may come in the form of some dangerous storms that could produce, some of those supercells as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then again, notice how these systems kind of turn up to the north and produce that rainfall right as we go into portions of the Northeast. Now notice how the trends start to dry things out into portions of the Great Lakes as we go towards the 7th through 14th, with systems still diving down, and under that, it's looking like that ridge will decompose a little bit into Texas, the Arklatex region for you there, as we get some more of that precipitation to form and move up towards the east coast. Now the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook agrees with that, still keeping things a little bit wet into the Great Lakes, even though it's looking like we'll begin to trend drier there. But look at how this rainfall tends to make its way through portions of the Midwest and into the Northeast. And also notice how we're now keeping things with some of that precipitation diving down towards the Gulf Coast as well, below average precipitation toward the Four Corners region. Now there's that cool air dome continuing to build as we go the 7th through the 14th. Warm air into portions of the eastern and southern half of the country, as well as back into the Pacific Northwest as we go, again, July 7th through 14th. And there's that 8 to 14 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, again, showing that cool air starting to decompose over portions of the high plains, with some of that cooler air trying to spill on over towards Appalachia, but that'll be about the furthest it can make it, and maybe just eating away at the heat, but making it closer to average in the east. Notice we keep things warmer than average along the southern tier and still in the Pacific Northwest. Now, late month CFS trends as we go the 21st through the 28th, bringing most of the country into these warmer impacts, so everybody's trending above average according to that. Notice how the Climate Prediction Center hops on this train in general, bringing extreme heat into portions of the desert Southwest, with some heat as well into portions of the Northeast. But notice how everybody else has at least equal chances, meaning that there's an equal chance that you're below or above average. No more of that cool air just dominating as it looks right now as we go towards mid-month. And that it looks like we'll see some more of that precipitation along the East Coast towards mid-month as well. and then drier zones starting to filter in into portions of the southwest. That will continue there, and then starting to build in into the Great Lakes. Here's the overall precipitation trends for July according to the CAN SIPS model for us here on Tropical Tidbits. You can see, again, the wettest spots are going to be in the plains and into the southeast, as well as into some northeast spots, drier in the Great Lakes and the southwest as it looks right now. Other models do agree with that trend in general. And then for your drought into the start of July, this is what's the good news is. As we start July, the biggest drought is right here into portions of the plains and Midwest. And there's good chances, or at least equal chances, that these areas get some of that heavier precipitation. And then in terms of the July model temperature trends, look at the heat trying to build in according to the CAN SIPS model for us here. Most of the country getting in on this. And then the eastern half according to the NMME for us here. The CFS, again, shows that cooler air. I think this is going to be how it plays out more. More of that heat in the east as well as the Pacific Northwest with just a little bit of cooler air right in that Rockies zone. So there's the monthly temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, showing basically everybody at least warmer than average in general. And then here is my exclusive July precipitation forecast made by ONW right for you here. Look at this, a level 2 to 4 threat. A level 2 of 4 threat with plentiful systems making their way out of the plains and off towards the southeast for us here for some of this precipitation to be higher than average. And then when it comes to being below average, missing out on some of that precipitation in the Great Lakes as well as in the Four Corners. And then your exclusive June temperature forecast, warmer in the east and as well as into the Great Lakes region for us here, and looking hot and dry back into portions of, the southwest zone, generally warm back into the Pacific Northwest, but there's that cooler air that's going to try to filter into the plains and Rockies. I have that at least noted for us here, because it looks like the month will at least be a little bit cooler and then closer to average. Now, in terms of the tropics precipitation tracker for us here, look at this. It's looking like we're going to see more of these tropical waves producing heavy precipitation into the lesser and eventually the greater Antilles as well. We'll keep an eye on that precipitation as it pushes west, but as it looks right now, things will be drier in the central and southern Gulf of Mexico, according to the CAN-SIPS model, and that is how most models are looking at this. So the good news, hopefully, is that most activity will be staying out in the Atlantic, but anything that makes its way past the Antilles this time of the year can push towards the Gulf of Mexico, making above-average precipitation. Obviously, a tropical storm or hurricane entering the Gulf is nothing we want. So the headlines recap. Near-term storm will bring cool and severe across portions of the country. That will last through the July 4th timeframe. Wet month for most central states. Hot for most of the country throughout the month. And then tropical waves will be forming, but the Gulf looks to generally stay quiet unless one of those moves in. Subscribe, hit the like button, and let's hop on over to the credits.